Hi everybody, my name is Cynthia and this is my very first attempt at ever doing a video blog or anything like that. I am starting this because I am about to start another round of surrogacy, and I'm a very open book about it whenever people ask me about it, so I thought why not try to also share my experiences with people that may not be able to ask me but always were curious. So what my series is going to cover is more of a realistic take on surrogacy. So I am going to be very realistic about it. There might be some things that surrogates don't agree with me saying or don't appreciate me saying. There also might be some things that the intended parents, which you call IPs, might not appreciate, but it might also be the other way around. I might say things that intended parents appreciate, but nobody's said it before, or things that surrogates also feel, but nobody's ever said it before. So some of the things that my series will cover is how to go about picking your agency, the matching process, contract process, injections, including a video. I will do a video of myself doing the injections. It'll talk about the transfer processes, what to expect in pregnancy, realistic expectations during your pregnancy and after is very important. Also, a what not to do video. That could be for intended parents if they want to watch, but mostly for surrogates. So those will be covered in the series, but this video for now is going to be more about what is surrogacy and how did I come about it. So I was first introduced to the thought of surrogacy at a friend's barbecue, and there was a girl there who had done surrogacy before. And when she was talking about it, it just shocked me. And my first thought was, being super fit at that time, I was like, why would you do that to your body? But then I heard how much she made. And as a single mom, I was pretty shocked by it. So it took me months and months later, and I came across somebody again. So somebody at a place that I worked, in a clinic that I worked in, there was a lady who sat behind me whose roommate was supposedly doing surrogacy. So every day she would come to work with these crazy stories about what her roommate was planning on doing. Like, she didn't work out, she just sat at home all day, every day, just, being a surrogate. And she would come and saying, she bought clothes for the baby and was expecting to be reimbursed. No. She had decided she wanted to keep the baby for a couple days after it was born. No. Then a couple days turned into a week or two of her wanting to keep a baby that's not hers after it was born. So the more and more stories I heard about this person, the more I was just so frustrated for the parents. I'm like, this is not what a surrogate's supposed to be. If you're a surrogate, it's your job to grow the baby healthily, and then you give it to its parents. And I had a good thought process on, having the emotions detached from it, which you do need to have it to a certain point. I didn't have the best life growing up, and so I was able to emotionally detach. So that's the first question people normally ask me is, don't you get attached? Like, how hard is it to give away the baby? And in my opinion, it's not hard, because it's not my baby. It's a little friend that I'm hanging out with for 9 or 10 months, and then I'm going to give it to its parents that obviously could not love it more because they put everything into this process that they're about to do. So how does surrogacy work? So what they do is you start the matching process, and an agency helps you match with an intended parent. So they're called intended parents because they're intending to become a parent. They want to be a parent with everything that they have. So these parents have either tried to have babies, and either the mother, the woman, the wife, whatever you want to call it, has a fertility issue, or the husband, father, man has some sort of a fertility issue, or it's a same-sex couple wanting to have a baby, and so they have to go through IVF because, if it's, say, two gentlemen, they only have sperm, they don't have eggs, so they're going to have to get help with that. So how the actual surrogacy process works, or the process of creating the baby, is they take all the good sperm, whether it's from a sperm donor or from one of the partners, and they keep the good, throw away the bad. They do the same thing with the eggs. They extract eggs, they keep the good, throw away the bad. Then they fertilize everything that's left, put it together, let it grow. I believe it's for a week until it's divided enough cells to be able to take some cells out to test for everything. So at this time, they can test for, Downs during this. They can test for chromosome abnormalities, I believe. And at this time, they definitely know whether the embryo is male or female. They also can give it a grade, whether it's an A+ or an A or a B, or if it's completely not viable. So once again, they keep the good and they throw away the bad. So there's two different types of transfers with this, and a transfer is what they call putting the egg inside the surrogate. So there's a fresh transfer where they're currently in the process. They match the surrogate's menstrual cycle to an egg donor's menstrual cycle right then and there. And the surrogate comes in after they've freshly extracted eggs, literally probably the previous week or two. I think it's only a week, from the egg donor. They fertilize all of those, and then they bring the surrogate in right away to put the egg inside the surrogate's uterine lining. The other type is just with a frozen embryo, which is pretty common. This is my 5th contract process, and only one of them has had a fresh transfer, and that was my first one. So with a frozen embryo, they've already done everything I've explained previously, and then they freeze the embryo until the matching process begins, until the parents find their surrogate, and when it's a right time in their lives to have a baby. So then the baby is like cryogenically frozen, and then that's why they call them snowflake babies. And when the parent is ready and they have their surrogate matched and they're in contract and the surrogate's been under injections and everything's all ready to go, then they defrost the baby, the embryo, and then they implant it inside of the surrogate. So when they do the implantation, it's really, really easy on the surrogate. It's honestly less painful than a pap smear. They use a speculum, and this is after the surrogate has been on injections. They use a speculum, and then they go in with a really teeny tiny catheter. They go all the way in through the cervix into the uterine lining, and they gently implant the embryo into the uterine lining. So when I talk about injections, it's because the surrogate has to inject herself. And my best way, being in the medical field for a long time, my spiel is on that is you have to inject yourself with hormones to trick your body into thinking it's pregnant. Otherwise, when they implant the embryo, your body might think it's a foreign object and it might try to expel it. It's not going to take it seriously because it didn't come from you. So some of the medications are Lupron, progesterone, estrogen. Then there's a couple antibiotics and things like that. Some of these medications are injections, and some are inserts, and some are both. So the surrogate has to inject herself anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks, depending on the doctor's protocol, and that is injections every single day. And one of them, main injections, make the uterine lining thick. The other one makes the uterine lining sticky. That way, when they put the embryo in, the uterus is gonna be completely accepting, and it pretty much already thinks it's pregnant, so it's gonna hold on to what is put there. And then so after the transfer is done, the surrogate has to just lay there for 15 to 30 minutes. I think they try to have me get up at 15 minutes. I'm like, no, it doesn't seem right. Let me sit here another 15 minutes, make sure this baby sticks. And so then you're put on either bed rest or just light duty for 3 days, meaning you don't do anything strenuous. Even me, who's addicted to working out, I don't work out, for probably about a week, I think is what they say. It's doable to work out. And then 10 days later, they bring you in for your first pregnancy test, and you can see if you're pregnant. So that was a bit about the transfer process. So some people ask if they're really interested, well, what's the requirements of being a surrogate? And I would like to state right here, I am not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, I'm just the girl next door who has been doing surrogacy for a few years. And like I said, I'm on my 5th contract process. And so what I talk about is my experiences. I may not be, according to anybody else that watches this, 100% correct, but everybody's process is different. Everybody has different agencies. Everybody has different parents, intended parents. Everybody goes to different fertility clinics. Everybody lives in different states where they see this differently. So this is my experiences. So nothing I say is ever meant to be hurtful. It's just my experiences. So a lot of people ask, what are the requirements of being a surrogate? So there is parents that are local in the States, in America, and then there's a lot of international couples coming to America wanting to have a baby because surrogacy is for some reason illegal in their country. There's some states where surrogacy is illegal too. I live in Oregon. I'm born and raised in California, and I moved up here because I love the weather. I love the rain. My daughter's middle name is Rain. So I moved up here just to have a better life, cooler weather, hopefully own a home. And so I've experienced processes in Southern California as well as here in Oregon. So there's a lot of international couples coming to the States to try to have a baby. Right above me, I was starting to say, in Washington State, surrogacy is illegal for some reason. They consider it a selling of a person. Well, from what I've learned from people who've adopted, adoption costs thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So isn't that literally the selling of a person? So I don't understand why surrogacy would be illegal up there, which I've learned recently. They won a victory, and Washington State is going to have surrogacy be legal, as far as I've read. It's going to have a couple stipulations, which still don't seem that bad. Like a surrogate can only be a surrogate 2 times up there. But it's a really great thing because the states that don't allow surrogacy are taking the right to choose away from intended parents. Because if they don't have a right to choose surrogacy, then that state is literally taking away their right to have a family and create a family in whatever way they want to. So I was getting to some of the requirements for being a surrogate. So the reason I was talking about how it comes from different countries is some countries tell their people, their citizens, if they're going to have a surrogate, their surrogate must be single. In the States, it doesn't really matter. A surrogate can be single or married. So that's one of the requirements depending on the couple that you choose. So some couples will specifically look for a surrogate that is single. The other requirements are can't be a smoker, obviously, can't drink heavily. You do have to be below a certain body fat percentage, which, if you're struggling to be within the range of acceptable body fat for surrogacy and you can't get down to that range, the range is pretty big. I want to say the body fat percentage you can be is between 32 and 34% body fat. That means 34% of your body is pure fat. If you're struggling to get to an acceptable number for body fat, I don't know if that would be the best person for surrogacy, because if you can't keep yourself healthy, how are you going to keep somebody else's baby healthy? And I think that that's also very important for intended parents to know that their baby is being respected, the surrogate is respecting her body, making healthy choices. Working out is very important when you're pregnant. You can ask any doctor. Some women will stop working out when they're pregnant. And the studies have shown that the healthier you are when pregnant, the more working out you do, the more cardio you do, the healthier the baby's heart is. Doctors, from my experience, no, not a doctor, from my experience, doctors will tell you it is okay to do most things that you did before you were pregnant while you're still pregnant. So with doctor approval, on my last surrogate journey, this is the first time I was still running when pregnant, but I was running up until 6.5 months pregnant with my last one. I was on the treadmill on some of my pregnancies up into the day before I gave birth, and I have been back on the treadmill a few days after. Walking very, very gently, but still doing it, because when you're a surrogate and you don't get to keep the baby, then you're healing without something to occupy your time while you're off work. So when you have your own baby, it's this happy, joyous time, and you get to keep the baby and raise it and give it kisses and feed it and all that kinds of stuff. But when you're a surrogate, you just pop this baby out. Your hormones are going crazy because you went from being pregnant to not being pregnant, and not just not being pregnant, but women are designed to take care of babies, and then you don't have a baby to take care of. So part of the things that kept me sane and kept me healthy mentally and physically was getting right back to working out after. Some of the other requirements for surrogates is some couples, I think, have to have surrogates from certain states, or some countries have to have them from certain states. And if you are going to be married and go into surrogacy, it's totally okay. Your partner will have to be tested, and your partner will also have to sign the contract stating they understand that this baby is no part of you, either the woman that's carrying it or the partners, and just confirming that they're not going to cause any trouble after. And I think part of that might be because there's been cases before where, say, a regular conventional married couple, a man and a wife, a man caused trouble afterwards because his wife was pregnant and he tried to claim rights to that baby. So that's just something that I heard. So that's part of the reason even some other countries have to have a single surrogate. But no matter what, if you're married or have a domestic partnership, your partner does have to sign the contract. If you're single, there's nobody else to sign the contract, so you're fine. Okay, so that's a little bit about the basics on what is surrogacy. Like I said, this is my first video ever, so please don't ever make fun of me in the comments, because I'm just, like I said, the girl next door trying to help people out. You might have questions that you're afraid to ask and information that you're afraid to try and find, or you're just thinking about it in the back of your head and you don't know if you really want to do it. So I will definitely be creating more videos. That way you can see what the titles are, see if there's something that you'd be interested in watching, and hopefully you guys will watch next time. Well, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys all have a great day.